Hello everybody, this is Brenda Campbell, Certified Zentangle Teacher. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping to watch this video. Today I am going to draw a little Zentangle inspired art piece for the month of April or springtime. In my world, April showers bring May flowers. I grew up with that a little saying in my head. So I always think about April showers, rain, if you will. And so what we're going to draw today for our little ZIA project is a rainbow. So this is a sample that I made. I have used, right here is a new tangle that I deconstructed called leaf bows. And we're going to start with that at the bottom. These are simply print-toms that I have gone back around to add another little swirly thing, if you will. And these were basically just flowers that I added. But I think I have another idea for something in the center. So I think we should go ahead and get started. So let's just take a moment to take a deep breath and have some gratitude for the time that we have here if you're drawing along. I am certainly grateful for you who are watching. So I'm going to take a couple of deep breaths before I start. And I just try to let everything go with that exhale. I know this is boring, but I always feel a little better and a little better centered, I guess, when I take a few deep breaths. So I certainly encourage you to do so. Now, even though we are drawing a Zentangle inspired art project, which simply just means we're going to use some tangles. We're going to draw using the Zentangle method to an extent. But we can break the rules because it's Zentangle inspired art, so it's not the classic Zentangle method of drawing. So I'm still going to use the corner dots because I find it keeps me contained, and I'm going to bring those in a ways from my edge. Then I'm going to connect them very lightly with a pencil. I'm not even sure you can see this. I'll try to make it a little bit darker there. So that's step 1, 2, and 3. And we did some breathing. We drew our corner dots, and then we drew our lines to create our border. Now we're going to draw a string. Now, with ZIA, you don't have to do all these steps, but I find most of them help me even when I'm just doing some art. So we're drawing rainbows. What we need are half circles. So I try to be as symmetrical as I can. I'm going to say this is about halfway between the left and the right side. And so what I'm going to do is try to draw a half circle starting from here and coming down there. And then I'm going to turn it and try to come up this way. There. Now it's a little pointed, but it still gives me an arc or a rainbow type of shape. And it's just a string. I can ignore it or go over it. Then I'm going to try to draw another aura of that arc here. And then another one in the middle of that. Now you can see they are not even. This is really skinny. And this is fatter, but we don't have to follow these exactly. We can go ahead and use our own judgment. But I'm putting my pencil down now, and I'm picking up my pen. I'm using a PN for plastic nib. It's a little thicker line, which is going to be good for me. And I'm going to start with my new tangle leaf bows. We're going to have that be the flower or the plant at the bottom. So I'm going to use this arch line here for the rainbow, and that is where I'm going to start with my pattern leaf bow. So I'm going to draw that line about halfway. Now I have it going down below my pencil line here. That's because this is a little crooked. So it'll be fine. And then I am going to draw my first triangle shape. There. But now I'm going to draw from the other side my second leaf bow tangle. And then this one will be behind that one. Okay. Now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add more leaves, or triangle shapes, if you will. I don't have my turntable because this paper is 6 by 8, which is bigger. This is Bristol paper by Canson, because I am going to add some watercolor. So I wanted something that would hold water medium. And I think the Bristol will be just fine. I'll come back over here. Because these tangle shapes are curving, I have several leaves, I think, that go behind. You can see them all kind of clustered up there. That's okay. Okay, so there are my basic shapes. Now I can draw my lines inside. I just draw 3 lines, but you're welcome to draw more or less. I think they kind of look nice with just the 1 line in the center, but for this project, I kind of like the extra lines, and I typically will draw 3 inside each one of these triangle shapes, so that's just my preference. Sometimes when I do watercolor projects, I will do the color first. But today, I'm doing the drawing first. And then I will color it. Hopefully, a little more in the lines, if you will. Let's turn this back around here. Okay, so that's our first tangle. Now, if you want, you can add, and I might do that here, add a little offshoot. Adding one at the top here. And I might add another one on the other side. And it will probably go down. This one went up, so this one will go down. Like that. Just adding some interest. I want to keep it simple, so I'm going to only do a couple of leaves on each one of these shoots. So there, now I've got something a little bit more interesting. So now, the next tangle that I want to draw is printom, and I'm going to put my printom in the outside of ring of our rainbow. So you can draw print lots of different ways. I am going to start with my little center, and then I stop here. Now that's your standard print that Zentangle has deconstructed. But I am going to add some extra lines to give it a little bit more interest. And that just becomes pretty easy if you just kind of keep going around, but then you go over the line that you drew. Some of these will go behind, but I like for the most part to keep them clustered so you can see as much of it as you can. Now, we're making a rainbow of Zentangles, but they kind of look like flowers and plants. Again, keeping with our springtime theme. Now I'm starting in the center, and I'm going to go down each side. But I'm going to be careful not to just start here and go down. I'm periodically going to start in a new section. And I don't know, I just think that keeps me, keeps things a little more consistent. Maybe I'm just fooling myself, but that's the way I like to do it. So however you prefer to do it is how you should do it. And you can, if you're not sure, you can draw like me this time and then change it up when you practice some more until you find your own little versions. Because that's how I do it. That's how most artists do it, I think. The more you practice, the more you discover. The more you learn. And the more consistent you get, the more, before you know it, you'll be able to identify your own style easily. And more importantly, others will notice it too. Now I'm trying to be careful of the shape of my rainbow. So I've got my pencil lines, which I'm using as a bit of a guide. But if you remember, I wasn't really excited about how some of the pencil lines were, some of those sections were thinner and thicker than the others. Just giving it more interest, but it will also be something I need to pay attention to as I draw my tangles so I can keep consistent with the shape of the rainbow. Let's go over here for a bit. Okay, let's go down here now. Fill in this corner next. Here to this corner. Okay, I think I have most of them in here now. And I don't know, maybe we need another one here. This is the time that I want to look at what I've drawn and decide if the shape looks good or if I need something more to even it out or make it look a little better, more symmetrical. I'm just kind of filling in some loose ends here, maybe. I don't know what you would call it. Just trying to make my shape a little bit better. I think that's what it is. One more here and I think I'm good. Okay, I lied. One more here. Okay, I'm going to be done with that. So now we just have this space in the center. So we need a third tangle. And what I am going to do here is basically do, I'm going to have to, I don't know who deconstructed this tangle. It's called Lazy Eights, I think. And it is, see, like an 8. Then you turn and you do another 8. And we are going to put those in this space in the center. We're just going to fill it with these shapes. Drawing behind where we need to. There's one more decorative element to this tangle, but I want to draw them all first and then we'll decorate. These are essentially just 4-petal flowers in the center. Once you kind of get in a groove, you can do your 8s, just kind of continually. Gonna do a few little partial ones here, I guess. Okay, so the decoration for these is to draw 2 lines and then fill them in. So you have this dark black stripe on this flower, and that is going to help to give us some contrast for this piece. Got a lot of lines, but not a lot of bold shapes, so that's what we're adding here. Well, there it is. Good or bad, there it is. I have to go back over some of these black lines, fill them in a little bit better. Give them a little bit of love, as we like to say. But I think that's going to be good for now. And that is our rainbow of flower tangles. And the next step is going to be the watercolor. So let's take a moment to pause, and I will get right on that. Okay, now we're going to do the fun stuff. We're going to add some color. I am going to use Peerless watercolors for this project. They come, they're flat sheets of watercolor soaked paper, and then I just adhered them to something to hold them in place. And anyway, my sheets are kind of messy, but the paint's going to work just fine. So I am going to start with my leaf bows, and we are going to paint those this amber yellow color. So I've got a little bit, I've got some water here and a paintbrush. You can't see it, it's off camera, but I am going to get my brush wet. Then I'm going to pick up some of this paint from one of these corners here. And then we are going to just kind of paint those shapes. I'm not being terribly precious, so I'm not always staying within the lines, but I'm just going quickly and doing my best, which I think is all any of us can do. Get a bit more water. I tend to not be terribly precious with my pieces when I'm painting, and I kind of like the loose style, but you may not, and that's fine. If that's the case, you just want to take a little bit more time and maybe be more careful with your brush. I tend to just like to go fast and then move on. I'm not sure what that says about me, but that's how I roll. Okay, I'm going to see if I can't add a little bit more saturation, another layer, if you will, everywhere that I have something that goes underneath. Just to kind of give that little bit of illusion, if you will, of a shadow. Give it some dimension. I don't know if it's making any difference here or not. Sometimes you have to wait until the paint dries to know. Lucky for us, it dries quickly. Okay. Well, I think that's probably plenty for now. So there's my amber yellow. Remember, that's what we used here. Peerless watercolors, amber yellow. Now we're moving on. Actually, I think I'm going to do the Printemps next, and we're going to do those in Lip Smackin' Pink. It's one of my favorite colors. In case you hadn't noticed, I tend to use a lot of pink. So anyway, we're not as concerned here about all the shapes. I'm going in circles around each one, but it's definitely going to be going beyond the circle more than likely. Again, that messy style, which I don't mind. I kind of like it, but you may not. If that's the case and you just want to be more precious, then that's your prerogative. Some of these are darker. That's okay. Gives it a little bit of contrast. I'm going to turn this around. Get a little bit more paint, a bit more water. I'm filling in spaces that are between the tangles here where I'm doing the Printemps. Water. Go. Now, I neglected to mention that any pencil lines that you drew, once you paint over them, they're not going away. I don't really care, so I leave mine. But if you don't want them showing underneath your watercolor paint, then you probably want to go ahead and erase them before you start painting. And I know I'm late with this information, and I'm sorry. But that's my bad that I waited. But again, no mistakes. You do not need to be concerned about it. My next color is chrome yellow, which really looks more like an orange than a yellow. And that is what we're going to use on our crazy or lazy 8s, I think. There we go. Now, my brush is pretty wet, so a lot of this paint is going to go outside these lines. I don't care, but if you do, then you might want to be a little bit more precious as you're painting. I noticed this before, so I'm going to go ahead and address it now. I've got a petal here from my Lazy 8s. I forgot to put a stripe on, so I shall do that. But I'm going to leave that for just a moment so that black ink has a chance to really dry. Because if I'm not careful and I go over it, it'll smear. Once it's dry, though, it's waterproof. That's the nice thing about the Sakura micron pens, is that ink is waterproof. And it will bleed if you touch the other, like if I touch my pink Printoms and they're still wet, then they will bleed into my orange Lazy 8s. So that's okay if that's what you like, but if it's not, you might want to be careful so that doesn't happen. Make sure that the section next to you is dry. I noticed that this orange, or excuse me, chrome yellow that I thought looked like orange, actually looks pretty yellow next to this amber, which I'm a little disappointed in, but no mistakes, it's all good. But I have an idea that if I just go back over each one again, it will look more yellow. So another layer of paint will give us some more saturation, and what we're really looking for here is some separation from the amber underneath. I can do this one now. Okay. The other thing I could do to make these more orange, and I might just do a little bit while it's still wet, is to take my pink, because yellow and red make orange, and let's see how this looks. Gives it a very distinctly different orange look, which I don't mind. Messy, lazy style of painting. Okay. I don't know if I like that there's not more contrast, but that's okay. I'm now going to kind of fill in the space in between these shapes with a little bit more of this orange that looks more yellow once you get it next to yellow, but it's okay. What's dry on this should keep the paint pretty close to where it's at in terms of color. And I am just mostly with a wet brush and a little light dusting of that pink, or I mean, it's got not pink, that orange. And I'm just kind of brushing in the background. Here, I don't want to blend it too much. Let me rinse my brush off. Get some more of the orange, just so I've got pigment there. And this step kind of smooths things out a little bit, but you have to be careful. This is only Bristol paper, not watercolor paper, so you really don't want to put too much water on it, as the paper will start to fall apart. And I'm probably reaching that limit very quickly here. That's okay. It's all good. Just kind of moving that water around at this point. Okay. Last little bit, I think. Okay, sloppy as it is, I'm happy with it. Now we're done with our flowers. The only thing left to paint, if you choose to, is the background. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start on the bottom because my yellow should be pretty dry, and I'm gonna use grass green. And that is basically gonna go on the bottom. And I'm gonna try not to get too much of this green mixed in with that yellow inside those leaf shapes. Some more paint here. There we go. I'm also going to put it in here. And this I'm going to try to be a little more careful. a little bit more on that side. These little halos around the shapes are happening because I think I have more water than I should, but it's all good. Okay, so that's the bottom is green. And now, finally, background, sky blue. How appropriate. I was a little more generous with the water in my Printemps, so I'm gonna try not to blend it too much right away. So I don't want it to bleed too badly. Oh well, it's okay. Okay, I think this is very colorful. It is pretty messy, I'll give you that. But I'm just having fun, and hopefully you're having fun too. Because really, isn't that what this is all about? Remember, there's no mistakes. And I did put a little more water on this than I should have, but that's okay. I'm gonna let it dry now. And then I'm gonna come back once it's dry, and I'm gonna put my chop on it. So we'll see you soon. Hey everybody, I'm back with my completely dry piece. The colors are still pretty vibrant. I do love my Peerless watercolors. That's what we used on this project. But I expected them to kind of lighten up a little bit as they dried, but as you can see, they're still really vibrant. So I am now going to put my chop on here, and I kind of like to put that right over here. Actually, I have grabbed the wrong pen. I'm going to use my PN pen like I did for the rest of the lines. So I'm going to stick it down here. Maybe I'll do it over here on this side. And I skipped underneath where there really wasn't much paint, just kind of for a little fun effect. So there you have our rainbow for April showers bringing Mayflowers and rainbows of Mayflowers, or rainbows of flowers. Anyway, here it is. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.